Hello, everybody. Welcome into the PHLY Phillies podcast. Jamie Lynch, Tyler Zulli with you. Let me try that again as my best Bo Wolf impersonation. Hello, everybody.
Not bad. Not bad.
Right? Yeah.
You trailed a little bit at the end.
Yeah.
Got to keep it strong throughout, but pretty good.
Yeah. Happy Thursday to all out there. Now, Tyler, in 2004, on this date, is the anniversary of something special at Citizens Bank Park. Do you know what it was?
2004.
2004.
Is today the anniversary of David Bell's
I think Kaya has an answer in the background.
Yeah, my dog wants to tell you. Is it is it David Bell's anniversary of the cycle?
No, it is not. Good guess, though. Today, in 2004, Jimmy Rollins hit the first inside the park home run in Citizens Bank Park history. So where were you?
2004.
I don't even want to know. You're going to say something like high school or college, and I'm going to...
High school or college, brother. I was in 4th grade.
Oh, God. It's even worse than I expected.
I was 11.
I was graduating college, so I was way off on that one.
Yeah,
I was hoping maybe you'd be in high school.
So the cool thing for me was my grade always lined up with the year.
Okay. That is kind of cool.
04 was, so like I graduated 8th grade in 2008, high school in 2012. So it was always kind of cool that way. It was not easy to remember.
Yeah, as somebody that's calendar illiterate like myself, that would have helped for sure. But yes, Jimmy Rollins' first inside the park home run.
What does that mean? You don't know how to read a calendar? Is that how that works?
Yeah, kind of. Like I couldn't tell you what year is what. Like I have to think really hard about like my wife and kids' birthdays. I can get them, but it doesn't just like roll. Like days of the week I have no recollection for, like even remembering like sporting events and what time of the year they were. Like there's just it's all a mishmash of events in my head with no calendar tied to them.
See, when you do that, I can get behind people's birthdays are tough. Like immediate family members and my wife, that's about it. And like one buddy, like very long term, we've been friends since middle school buddy. Other than that, I'm out. But you give me who won the World Series in 2002, I'd be like, oh yeah, that was the Angels over the Giants.
See, like 2002, I'm like, this is how it goes in my head. I go 2002. All right, I was a sophomore in college. And then like I try to like put it together by that. Like where would I have been watching the World Series? And like it's just bad. It's really bad. Shout out to everybody in the chat early on here. K Red, Chris Slemmer, Spiral Out, some of our people in there early. Love to see it. Happy Thursday to all. I am down in my basement wearing the same quarter zip I wore last night. I do not want people to think I'm just wearing the same clothes again. I just left this down here because, Tyler, what's your ideal air conditioning in the house temperature on a day like this? Because I'm a big 69, 70 guy.
We have it set to 70. It hasn't gotten to 70 in the last probably 4 days. Like it's really trying. It's trying really hard. But I think it's at like 72 right now. It's getting close. But you know, the issue is when you live in an apartment complex, you're not sharing the same unit, but you're sharing the same energy, right? Yeah, everybody's pulling from the same energy source. So I think everybody's air conditioner and energy sources are working overtime right now. So it's comfortable. It's 72. I'm not going to complain too much.
My basement where I am is freezing. Yeah, I go overnight. I set it to 68, 69.
Oh, love that.
Oh yeah, Big Bear's got to sleep cold, you know.
Well, that's when you go away and you're in a hotel and you just crank it down to as low.
Hotel, I go like 64.
Whatever the lowest it can be.
Yeah, and I am freezing in my basement right now. I do not have shoes on, so I had to throw on the quarter zip to maintain the broadcast here. But we got a lot to get to today. Jim Salisbury is going to join us at 11:30. He's got a great piece up on our website, allphly.com. Are you drinking water out of a whiskey glass?
I guess it could be considered a whiskey glass. It's a smaller glass.
It looks like a rocks glass, yeah. Or are you just drinking straight vodka, Tyler? Are you sick bastard?
You'll never know. Actually, you probably will know by like minute 45. Dipping, then you'll know which one it was.
That's an old chef in the restaurant trick. I knew some guys over the years, in my many years in the industry, that would do vodka out of a water bottle. And you never know what they're drinking, you know? So we're going to be joined by Jim Salisbury at 11:30. We're going to look ahead to the upcoming Diamondbacks series, a rematch of the NLCS last year. We are going to go down on the farm, and the farm reports these days are very exciting. And there's a super cool event happening in Major League Baseball today that we will get to. But we were on post-game show last night. Not a ton to kind of recap there from the Padres series. All that really matters is you won the series.
Yep.
And Ranger got his sweet family in front of him. And those are my takeaways, and that's all that matters. And Bryce Harper's mashing baseball, so all is well in Phillies land before we move on to the future.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about yesterday, the onus was to win the series, especially after you lose the previous two. You lose in Boston, you lose in Baltimore. The onus was to win the series. Again, sweeping series is hard. It doesn't matter who you play. The Padres, I think the Padres are a better baseball team than their record indicates. Their pitching has struggled at times. Vasquez has struggled. We saw it in game one where it was just like, I was texting with you guys. I was texting with my buddies, and I was like, it's just a matter of time. This guy stinks. They're going to get to him. But Waldron was good. Dylan Cease has been pretty good this year. I think he's one of the 5 pitchers in the National League over 100 strikeouts so far this year. And they've got talent. I think that they're playing below their talent level. So
absolutely,
it's not a bad baseball team. And the fact remains, you also kind of owned them over the last couple of years. So to go out and take 2 out of 3, I think is very encouraging. You have a weekend series now where this isn't retribution. This isn't like this isn't payback. It's kind of like when the Vikings beat the Eagles in the regular season after, the Eagles beat the crap out of them in the NFC Championship game. Doesn't mean the same, but it's always nice to get another series victory against a team that, was a playoff team a year ago.
Yeah, and when you think about them adding, the hits leader in Major League Baseball is Luis Suarez. Became the first player to 100 hits yesterday in Major League Baseball. And they also added Dylan Cease in the offseason. The Padres are going for it, and they have Machado and Tatis. So, yeah, I would agree they're playing below their fighting weight. I would expect them to be a team that makes a playoff push.
The one thing that I would consider that if they do make a playoff push, I would not be stunned if they're in the Diaz sweepstakes with the Rockies, because they desperately need a catcher, because Higashioka can't hit. He hitting like 180. He's a good defensive catcher, but he can't hit. And then inversely, Campusano, I think he has 23 pass balls this year.
Yeah, he's brutal.
He's an awful defensive catcher. He's got a little bit of pop in his bat, but he's a terrible defensive catcher. And at this point, they're pretty much just waiting for the Salas kid to get there. But he's, I think, 17 or 18. He's not going to be there for quite some time. I would not be stunned if they make a move, if catcher may be a priority for them, at least in the short term.
Yeah, you don't see a ton of catcher trades at the deadline, so that would be an interesting one. The Padres, they're a solid club, and they should be better than they are. We'll see if they can turn the corner here. So before we get into the outfield help, which is our thumbnail today, because I don't think there's any denying that the Phillies need some outfield help. Sure. The Arizona Diamondbacks are rolling into town. Hopefully we all don't get PTSD about game 6 and 7 at the bank last year. But right now, the way it's shaping up, Tyler, pitching wise, the Phillies should have the advantage here again, because Arizona is depleted. Their staff, they just got some good Eduardo Rodriguez news. I believe he's going to start throwing off the mound and might have a possible rehab start coming up. But they are injured. So the way it's going to go for the Phillies is Taijuan Walker is going to take the ball in game 1. Game 2 is going to be Zach Wheeler. Game 3, Christopher Sanchez. Ryan Nelson is going to start Friday night.
No, Ryan Nelson starts today. They have a game today against the Nationals.
Oh, okay. All right, so he's starting today. Brandon Pfaadt pitched yesterday, so you're not going to see him. Right. It's going to be a bullpen game, possibly.
My guess tomorrow they probably go bullpen.
Yeah, advantage Phillies. This is not the same Diamondbacks team that had caught fire last year coming into Citizens Bank Park. Corbin Carroll, we've talked about, is struggling. Ketel Marte is murdering baseballs. But outside of that, most of their offense has struggled, and their pitching staff is just injured and depleted. So advantage Phillies going into this series. You'd love to see them take 2 in a row and kind of right the ship after the post-England BS that Major League Baseball put them through.
Yeah, I think for the most part, you're going to say advantage Phillies, especially when you're strictly looking at the pitching matchups. I think for the most part, for the rest of the year, you're going to go pitching matchup advantage Phillies,
Yeah,
unless
sure.
unless
you're playing Seattle,
right? You play Seattle, right, or you're playing a team like the Dodgers or the Yankees where you can balance great pitching with an elite offense, and they kind of bring the scales back to even. But for the most part, you're going to say that, and anytime you get a matchup where an opener is starting. Now, granted, I will say the Brewers used an opener twice in the series, and it worked out both times. They brought the same lefty in to start the game both times, and then both guys that they brought in, it was Colin Ray and Bryce Wilson, I believe, where you were like long men who are actually starting pitchers, and both guys pitched pretty well. I got to get tip of the cap to both Ray and Wilson for pitching pretty well. But I think anytime you have an opportunity to tax a bullpen early in the game by their own doing, by their own merit, that has to swing a pitching matchup in your favor, even if it is Taijuan Walker taking the mound for you.
Yeah. There's not many teams, you're right, that are going to have an advantage, if at all, versus this Phillies rotation, which has been spectacular this year. And Christopher Sanchez really kind of cemented them as what they are. I think he's like the vital piece that really elevated them another level. The Yankees are a team. Garrett Cole got his debut last night with heel and the way he's going. And then, of course, Seattle, if Garrett Cole's back to Garrett Cole, true form, those are probably, two of the teams that can give the Phillies a legit run at the top of the rotation. But you're right. Like, they're going to have an advantage over everyone. And that's a great feeling to have.
Oh, for sure. I mean, even some of the rotations that you would say, oh, I like that rotation. Like, for example, I like Cincinnati's rotation. I think they've got a nice group of young arms. I like Pittsburgh's rotation with,
Skeens and
Vet
Jones,
Keller and then Skeens and Jones behind them. There's a couple of rotations where I like, and you go, they've got something brewing. That could be a team that really builds on a good starting rotation. The teams with the elite level starting rotations, you can definitively count on one hand, and you may be counting, I don't know, two right now. It might be Seattle and it might be the Phillies, and that basically right now could be it. Like I said, there's a couple of teams that are pushing. They're there. They've got guys who shove and just like, throw innings and the stuff's nice. But to put it all together, at least 1 through 4, and then to say a guy like Taijuan Walker or a Bryce Miller for Seattle or a Brian Wu for Seattle, like those are your 5s. You know what I mean? Like that's your 5th starter. You have a guy for Seattle and Emerson Hancock who you're just waiting for him to get going. You have a guy in Spencer Turnbull for the Phillies who is kind of become a Swiss Army knife, a utility guy a little bit, but he is somebody who can step in and be a starter. We've seen it at the beginning of the year. Those two teams are super, super deep at starting pitching. Everybody else, you've got nice staffs, but you don't have elite staffs like these two.
Yeah. The Phillies do have an elite staff. And sometimes when I watch an elite staff pitch, I like to have a cold, delicious Miller Lite in my hand, because what's better than enjoying my sweet boy Ranger pitching in front of his family last night for the first time ever, having a Miller Lite in my hand while I do it. Why? Because it tastes exactly like a beer should taste. What a novel idea, right? And it's less filling and it's only 96 calories. It's pool season, it's beach season, it's lake season, whatever you and your family do to have a great time. It's always a little extra special when you got a cold, delicious Miller Lite in your hand. It's the original light beer since 1975, and to this day, it's still the best one. It is simple. They hold on to what matters most, and they get rid of the stuff you don't need. And it's just great. Whether I'm walking the golf course or walking the concourse at Citizens Bank Park, Miller Lite always hits the spot, especially with the ballpark hot dog in your hand. Come on now. So Miller Lite is always there for you. You can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. And it's just simple. It's cold. It's less filling. And it tastes like a light beer should taste. Less filling and only 96 calories, the original light beer since 1975. And you don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLY Fills, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer.
Yeah, cold Miller Lite is always there for you. It does exactly what you need. And you know who else is always there for you and does what you need? That's our friends over at TrueMark Financial. Because when you invest and join in a credit union like TrueMark Financial, you don't just have a savings account. You don't just have an account. You become a part owner, which means that all of the profits come back to you instead of going to some of those shareholders, the faceless, nameless shareholders, as Jamie likes to call them. You're going to get better rates. You're going to get lower fees. And of course, the one thing that we want most in an economy that is difficult at times, we get a better return on savings. And of course, you're going to get more flexible options with all of the same digital tools and tech to make our life easier. Now, Jamie is somebody who still writes checks. But for those of you that are a little more tech savvy than our friend over here, you can get all the digital tools right online, and you don't ever have to leave your house to get the benefits of our friends at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. It has local roots. It's headquartered in Fort Washington and has 24 branches across the Philadelphia area, meaning that they serve our community and us right here at home. So becoming a member of a credit union has so many benefits over being just a customer at a bank. It becomes basically a total no-brainer. So head on over to TrueMark.com/PHLY to learn more or to find a branch near you. That's TrueMark.com/PHLY, federally insured by the NCUA. And if there was ever a reason to do it other than me telling you, listen to my dog. She agrees.
Yeah, Kaya is a big supporter of TrueMark Financial because Kaya is smart, simple.
Well, man, smart's, I don't know. She does some smart things, and then sometimes she barks at nothing for the entire day. So
yeah, sometimes dogs blow your mind with their intelligence, and then other times you see them eat poop in the backyard, and you're like, okay, which one is it, dog? Make up your mind. All right, a couple things to get into because Tyler, when I saw the show prep sheet this morning, you made an entire Ranger Suarez section, and that's
I figured you would enjoy it. If anybody wanted to talk wax poetically about Ranger, you.
That is right up my alley. So we'll get to that. But first, we need to talk about the outfield situation. I think it has become fully crystallized, whereas if we had this conversation a month ago, you might have gone maybe a little bullpen help, maybe a little bit of outfield help. Now I think it's fully taken form. This team needs offensive help from the outfield positions. Brandon Marsh and Christian Pache are going to be your temporary platoon in center field. And then in left field, this is something. You got Whit Merrifield, David Dahl, and Cody Clemens is starting his rehab assignment in Lehigh Valley this weekend. Could rejoin the club next week, and he could play a little left field as well. All right, let's go through the reality of the situation real quick. In center field, Brandon Marsh is hitting like 136 versus lefties. He's not very good versus left-handed pitchers. Christian Pache, not really that good of a player. He's a fine kind of bench piece that you don't really want to ever see in a playoff spot. Left field, David Dahl, outside of a couple, nice smacks when he first came up, has come back to reality. He's not putting the ball in play much.
Yeah, I think he's hitting sub 200 now on the season.
Yeah. That is not a long-term solution. Whit Merrifield, we all know the struggles of Whit Merrifield there. Cody Clemens all of a sudden becomes like a guy you look to like, all right, can he be better than the rest of those guys? Probably, because it's such a low bar. So really offensively from those 5 outfielders in 2 platoons, you're not getting a whole lot of offensive production. So I think it's clear Dave Dombrowski has a World Series contending team. I don't believe he's going to let anything get in the way of him upgrading the outfield. 40 days from now, when the MLB trade deadline comes upon us, they need help.
Yeah, they certainly do. And I think that we've talked about it. Nick Castellanos is your right fielder. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, slumps, peaks, valleys, the hot stuff, the hot streaks, the cold streaks. He is your right fielder, and you're comfortable with that for what he provides. Sure. I think in left field, in the short term, in the interim, Brandon Marsh is going to see more and more opportunities between left field and center field. And like you said, yes, he's struggling mightily against left-handed pitching. But I think as of right now, your option is Brandon Marsh to play a bulk of the games between left field and center field. Past that, I don't feel comfortable with anybody in more than a spot start long-term, non-long-term role. Because you know me, I'm not a big Christian Pache fan. I know that there was merit to Christian Pache being on the roster, a solid defender, somebody who hit left-handed pitching at a decent clip throughout the bulk of his career. Kind of was what you needed him to be if you were going to strictly platoon him and Brandon Marsh one-on-one for lefty-righty matchups. I get why he was on the roster, especially with options not available.
But by the way, on the defensive note, Brandon Marsh is much better left fielder than center fielder.
Yeah, I think that was probably a foregone conclusion for a while. There's a reason that Johan Rojas and Christian Pache were getting a bulk of the starts in center when everybody was healthy. And I think that's because Brandon Marsh is a good defender. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good defender.
Solid.
I don't think he is an everyday center field defender when you have better options available. So to wrap this all up, to kind of concisely, to put it into a concise bow, yes, they need outfield help in probably, I don't want to call it a desperate way just yet, but it's knocking on the doorstep of it, just simply because there is a glaring hole in center field right now. So I would venture a guess they're going to run a really weird platoon for the next couple of weeks until they get a better gauge of the trade market. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to make the big splash. They may end up acquiring like a B tier player or something along those lines, but the likelihood that they acquire somebody is
it's 100%,
pretty darn close to 100%.
Yeah, I mean, some of those lower level moves you talk about, like, they can help. I remember one of the better moves Matt Klentak made during his time here was getting somebody like Corey Dickerson. Didn't cost you much, and Corey Dickerson came and contributed and was one of your better offensive players back in, what was that, 2020? So, yeah, you can get low-level guys that can contribute and help out here. You have a list from Bleacher Report that we're going to get into. Yep. As Dave Dombrowski told Matt Gelb on The Athletic the other day, it's way too early to tell. You don't really know who's going to be a seller yet with that third playoff team. More teams have interest, so it drags it out a little bit longer. To me, the thing that makes more sense is getting the center fielder over the left fielder, because I think you have the left fielder in Brandon Marsh. And that's why I'm not going to shut the fuck up about Luis Robert for the next 40 days. Just warning everyone now. Other teams are going to have interest in him. You're going to have to pay. I don't mind paying for a guy that has 3 more years of club control at a very friendly number.
Yeah,
I think he might get devalued some just because of the injury stuff. But other than that, he's kind of like the perfect match for this core.
Well, it's 15 next year, and I think there's two mutual. I don't know if it's mutual or club options, but
like 19 or 20.
Both for 20. I think exactly the type of player that Luis Robert is. And I don't know if that intrigues you or turns you away.
It intrigues me.
The pros of Luis Robert: extreme power. I mean, grown man strength, plus defender, run producer. Those are the three to me that really stand out. I think he's your everyday center fielder. He's got extreme grown man pop, and I think a plus run producer in the fact that he's going to drive a lot of runs in, especially in this offense. The negatives: injured frequently, strikes out a lot, walk rate really stinks.
Don't care about those last two.
If you play those three,
just hit me bombs, baby.
How does it tip the scale? You know how big of a fan of Luis Robert I am. Clearly, we know how big of a fan that you are as well. I think it really comes down to what the price of the trade package is. To me, I think that there are going to be teams that are going to be willing to move more pieces than what the Phillies will be willing to move in when it comes to some of their high leverage prospects. So in that regard, I think a team that might be the front runner for a player like Luis Robert is the Baltimore Orioles, because of the fact that they've clearly said they're not super happy with the play of Cedric Mullins. And I know he's an elite defender still, but I think he's hitting 140 across the season. They have the prospects still to make moves.
There's a lot of sub 200 guys this year in baseball, and outfielders in particular. It's very weird.
I think there's something going on with the balls. We can get into that at a different time. I think that they've de-juiced the balls in a little bit. But the point being is I think there's going to be competition.
Sure, absolutely.
I wouldn't be stunned if a team like Atlanta makes a call to see what the value is.
That war criminal Anthopoulos, don't let him beat you.
It really matters about what do the pros outweigh the cons for you, because I think that the pros and the cons are extremely readily available for Luis Robert. You're not playing any guessing games with him.
No. And the injury one to me is the only one that matters. Chase rate, K rate. I expect that from a big bopper. That guy in Citizens Bank Park, if he plays a full season, can hit you 40 plus. So, I mean, this is an outfield with almost no pop. Nick Castellanos, I know some extra base hits are starting to come around a little bit, but they're not going to come at an extraordinary rate. Brandon Marsh, he almost can't play against lefties. And then everybody else is just like guys. So there's no doubt about it. Let's go through some of that list before Jim Salisbury joins us. All the teams in Major League Baseball who Bleacher Report thinks could be sellers, who's sitting pat, who's maybe, not. So let's just buzz through some of them.
The options are buy, sell, or hold. So we'll start in the American League East. Baltimore Orioles, I think we can all agree. They're buy. And yes, Boston Red Sox.
They're an interesting one because they were hovering around 500, and hovering around 500 coming close to the trade deadline means you could almost be a playoff team. So TBD there, I would say maybe more buyers, but it depends how it depends how these next 3 weeks go.
Yeah, they've got them as sell. Okay. I'm not entirely sure what the Red Sox will do. Coming into the season, I didn't think they were going to be very good. I thought they punched above their weight class for a bulk of the year. Headlined by really good starting pitching, right? Houck was good. Cutter Crawford was really good. Pivetta has had some really nice starts. But I think that they're probably going to come crashing back down a little bit.
Probably.
This is an easy one. The Yankees.
They're going to be buying.
Would tend to agree. Tampa Bay Rays.
I would think they sell.
I do too. And here's the list they provided. Here's some high-priced veterans. Zach Eflin, $11 million. Brandon Lau.
The Braves apparently are keeping a very close eye on.
Brandon, again, is he
Lau or Low? Which one is it?
$8.5 million. Randy Rosarina, $8 million. Yandy Diaz, $8 million.
There was a great late night bit. I think it was Conan. Is it Dermot Mulrooney or is it Dylan McDermott? And they used to confuse the two all the time. And this is us with Lau versus Low.
So
is it Nathaniel Lau or is it Brandon Lowe?
We're putting this thing to rest right now. Brandon Lau and Nate and Josh Lowe. That's what it is.
Brandon L.
Yeah, it's so
as
Nate
K Red says.
Nate and Josh are brothers. They're both Lowe. Brandon is Lau.
Do you know the percentage chance I remember this?
0.
3, I was going to say.
Oh, that's fair.
Thank you for the vote of confidence with the 0.
I shouldn't make it an obsolete. An absolute. That would be unfair on my part.
Yeah, I think the Rays sell.
Real quick, we'll just go through a couple more. The Blue Jays. They're an interesting one.
They're going to blow it up. I mean, I think they already started. Kevin Biggio, he's not anything anymore, but I think it was Buster Olney or somebody said this is the start of the end for the Baby Jays.
Yeah, I think that it's an interesting one because they have a lot of talented players, and we talked about it in the offseason. Is this the make or break year? I'm not sure they move everybody. So if I had to ask you, are you more confident if they were to make a trade, would it be Vlad or would it be Bo Bichette?
I think Vlad is a little more marketable, maybe to a Blue Jays fan base. So maybe I think they move from Bichette and keep Vlad. Guess?
It's fair. Just a couple more. How about the Chicago White Sox? What do you think about that?
I think they'll be selling. And give us Luis Robert, you cowards.
The one that's interesting, they have the Cleveland Guardians as holding. And I know that they don't like to spend a lot of money. I think they upped their salary this year by about $20 million. But I would be interested to see if they're a team that would be considering maybe a lower price move. See,
this is real quick. Yeah, they have to buy. This is where having John Middleton and the ownership group that the Phillies have, if the Phillies were punching above their weight and playing like the Cleveland Guardians are, where expectations were lower and you're going to be a playoff team and you're leading your division and all that, and you're getting phenomenal years from like Stephen Kwan, and Shane Bieber was spectacular, or Tanner Beebe, was spectacular last night. You have to buy. Like, that would be such an insult as a fan of that team for the team not to push in at the trade deadline. I'd be so insulted.
And they're doing this all without the race, right? Shane Bieber's been out for basically the entirety of the year. They've been doing this all without the race. They're not a fluke team. I don't even want to call them a fluke because that's not fair, but it's not like a lightning in the bottle, flash in the pan team anymore. They've clearly proven that they're a good baseball team.
Yeah.
Real quick, NL East, and then we'll get to all the rest of our stuff. There are 2 buys, 2 sells, and a hold. Probably pretty easy to determine who's
Braves and Phillies are the buyers. Mets, they're on fire now that they got Grimace on their side. I was going to say they were going to sell. I don't know if you can sell if you go on a hot streak leading up to the All-Star break or the All-Star break in the trade deadline. Right? I mean, the Nationals should sell.
So they have the Nats and the Marlins as sellers, the Mets as holding, and the Phillies and Braves. The Nats are interesting because you see sell, because, I've talked a lot about the Nats. I think that they're getting close to being a decent ball club.
Yeah, good young core.
And they've got some talent around them. You know how big of a CJ Abrams fan I am. I really like Mackenzie Gore. They've done a nice job of putting that young core together. But if you look at some of the vets that they have, like a Jesse Winker and Escobar. Oh my gosh, I'm not Escobar. Excuse me. I was gonna say Eduardo Escobar. Jesus, that really just aged me. Eddie Rosario. Jesse Winker and Eddie Rosario are the two
who signed like 2 weeks before the season started.
Yeah. Wow, I really just had a I feel old moment going with Eduardo Escobar. I'm not sure the last time he's played in the majors, but they have a couple of vets who could, who can be movable. But the young core, I think, is intact, so you can sell and still keep, a bulk of your guys that you're banking on for the future.
Yeah. We'll be joined by Jim Salisbury momentarily. That's an interesting list. It is too early to tell entirely, but like the Mets are an interesting team of, are they going to be buyers, sellers? We thought 2 weeks ago they were no doubt sellers. Now you look at it and they got Grimace on their side. By the way, the Fanatic needs to come out and just he needs to end Grimace, right? Just in the people's chokehold behind home plate. If they bring Grimace's ass to Philly, send him out of here like Hitchbot. All right. I want Grimace in 8 different directions.
By the way, Eduardo Escobar played in the majors last year. I don't know why my brain made me think he had been out of the majors for, 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah. But before we get to Jim,
that's in LA.
Let me just tell you, if you ever saw Grimace out in public and needed some, I don't know, anti-infectants or some Purell or many other things to wipe that gross purple blob off of your skin, you can head over to Rite Aid Pharmacy because their pharmacy services got everything you need. Of course, they have the over-the-counter stuff, but if you're dealing with prescriptions and your pharmacy and you want to sync your family up so you have to pick up everything all in one swoop and you don't have to make 3 to 4 different trips, you can refill your prescription, schedule a vaccine, get personalized care recommendations. All you need to get started is a prescription at Rite Aid. To get started at riteaid.com/mypharmacy. So stop stressing about all those prescriptions and let Rite Aid take care of you automatically. It's free, easy, and most prescriptions qualify. Go talk to your Rite Aid pharmacist or go through your My Pharmacy account at riteaid.com. You can get prescriptions the same time with one-trip refills. Just ask your local Rite Aid pharmacist to get started. Restrictions may apply. Manage prescriptions with Rite Aid's mobile app, too. Transfer or refill your prescription, set up medication reminders, enroll in prescription notifications. Just download the app from the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Transfer your prescriptions to Rite Aid today. Just go to riteaid.com/transfer. Rite Aid caring pharmacists are ready to answer your questions and help you stay healthy. Get your prescriptions along with anything at Rite Aid you may need, including all that over-the-counter Grimace stuff to get him away from you. Household products, cosmetics, and more. Just ask your pharmacy team for details. Restrictions may apply.
So, you know how I said sometimes the dog's really smart and sometimes she's not? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she got to the mail. She got in. I don't even know what this is. I think it's just coupons for fireworks. But she got it.
I got that same flyer for fireworks yesterday.
And she wouldn't let it go.
Yeah, Bootsy, my old dog, used to attack our door in South Philly when he would, because it was an old school mail slot, you just dropped it through the door, and she would literally bite the door, and the back of our door was just like all chewed up from Bootsy.
Sounds about right. Well,
yeah, I'm familiar.
I don't know if your dog is smart or not, but I know one thing that is smart for you is becoming a diehard with us here at PHLY, because we have a ton of great stuff that you can do, including read all of the great pieces and hang out with our friend coming up next, Jim Salisbury. And you can read pieces from Charlie O'Connor, Kyle Neubeck, of course, John Foley, and so many of our other great writers. But it doesn't just end with diehard content. Of course, you can join our Discord channel, which Jamie is super active on. We talk not just sports, right? We talk Phillies baseball, we talk prospects and fantasy baseball, but we also talk music, movies, food, whatever your heart desires. We can accommodate in our Discord. And of course, you can join us for our first annual golf outing coming up this summer at Valley Brook Country Club. We have an opportunity to get a foursome going. You can play as a solo, or you could sponsor a hole if you're so inclined, and you can hang out with some of our friends here at PHLY. You also get discounts on merch and different outings and things like that. And of course, head on down to Garage North in Fishtown coming up in just a couple of weeks for next week for our NBA draft preview with our friends Devon, Kyle, and Derek. Jamie and I will be there. I believe Renee will be joining us as well. So come on out, have a drink or two with us. Celebrate the Sixers with the 16th overall pick. Are they going to take a big? Are they going to use the pick? Will it be traded to facilitate a better move to bolster this roster? Well, we can decide all that when the time comes. So join our diehards and get some exclusive content. And again, our next guest has some exclusive content for you coming up soon, and that is our friend Jim Salisbury. So becoming a diehard is a great decision if you feel so inclined to get some extra content, to hang out with us, have some meet and greet opportunities, and so much more here at PHLY.
Yeah, with my diehard membership, I got mine because I work here, full honesty, but I would support it anyway because I just got to read a great piece by our next guest, Jim Salisbury, who joins us now. Jim, your new piece is up on the website. It has to do with a look back at the 2008 world champion Philadelphia Phillies on the heels of Cole Hamels' official retirement tomorrow night. Right. And I loved the roster construction element of the story. Like hearing Mike Arbuckle say they were unsure of Chase Utley or Rocco Baldelli at pick number 15 this year, and all the little things that went into building that club. It's an excellent piece. I encourage all of our diehards to go check it out. It must have been a lot of fun to write that story.
Yeah, it was a little trip down memory lane for me personally, but I think people like to read those type of stories. And,
absolutely.
It was natural to kind of hook it on Cole Hamels being celebrated tomorrow night, Friday, at Citizens Bank Park with a retirement ceremony. He's officially retiring, and I'm sure the Phillies are going to give him a nice send-off. A lot of his former teammates will be there. And, I mean, it just seems like yesterday for me and for you guys, I'm sure as well, that he was standing there holding up that World Series MVP trophy. I can still see him pitching in the puddles in Game 5. And what a memory. And, I told Cole this recently, and the expression I used was, when I was 24 years old, I was in my mother's kitchen eating Cheerios. When he was 24 years old, he was putting an entire city and an entire franchise on his back and pitching him to the World Series. That October was just unbelievable. This 24-year-old kid going into, I especially remember him going into Dodger Stadium, and I'd have to go through my book or through the play-by-play, but I can almost see in my mind's eye him retiring Garcia Parra and Jeff Kent, just going through that lineup, and the game he pitched in Cincinnati, and just an amazing run. The games he pitched here, just what a postseason he had as a young guy. And what a memory that was. And that team, like you're right, I always thought he was a scouting and player development success story. Obviously, he was a great pitcher and everybody could see the talent, but he had a medical issue. Phillies did their homework on it. They pulled a little end around on people by telling them, we're really not interested in Cole Hamels, telling other teams that. And they drafted him in 2002 in the first round, took a chance on him, and he paid dividends. But you look through that whole team, and that team was built. The core of that team was built on the back of scouting, good old school scouting and player development. Utley, Rollins, Howard, Madsen, Myers, Burrell, Ruiz, all came through the system. All were draft picks and all had a little funny or interesting background story. So I just thought it was a good opportunity to kind of tell that and relive a few good memories.
Yeah, I love the part about, I forget what the scout was that saw Jimmy in high school and was infatuated with him, but that he wrote he was 5'9" and not 5'6", because if he wrote 5'6", he thought the Phillies weren't going to have his back there until they saw him. That's great.
Absolutely. The guy's name was Bob Poole. He was the Phillies area scout in that area of Northern California, and he loved Jimmy. And but he knew how the game was played. If you wanted to get the big shots to come see your guy on an early report, you had to, juice him up a little bit. So he listed him as 5'9", and then I remember Marty Wallover telling me he went out to see him in the pouring rain, and he had an umbrella, and Jimmy hit a stand-up triple in the pouring rain, and Wallover stood there and said, don't miss another one of this kid's games, So pretty good. I love those stories. How these, Jimmy in high school, he threw like 93. He was their closer. He was their shortstop and closer. He'd come in and blow people away in the 9th inning, 8th inning, 7th inning, whatever they play in high school.
Jim, before we get to today's team with the Cole Hamels retirement tomorrow, I think a lot of people remember the highs of 08, the lows of 09, and you pair that with, you bring in Holiday, you bring in Lee, you bring in Oswalt. 2010 to 2012, Cole Hamels was just he would have been on another planet for any other team because of how good he was.
Yeah, he really learned a lot from 09 when he struggled. He didn't come in shape. He got hurt. He kind of went on that kind of world tour after the World Series, and he didn't take his offseason serious enough. And he sort of found religion in terms of health and conditioning after struggling in 09. I mean, if he's, good and healthy in 09, they traded for Cliff Lee that year, right?
Yeah. Yes.
I wonder if they
signed Pedro as well.
Pedro, they definitely don't sign Pedro if he's pitching good. Maybe they don't even trade for. I guess they probably still would, but yeah, he learned a lot from his struggles 09. He was really great in 10 and 11, and but you're right, he was kind of like the number 3 guy on those teams. But his maturation and development as a major leaguer after the World Series, I thought was exceptional. After the learning experience and struggles of 2009, he really latched on to Halladay. And I think, benefited from his counsel, and that helped take him to another level. But, great homegrown left-handed pitcher. I guess the best in Phillies history, right? I don't know. I mean, Steve Carlton wasn't homegrown.
Homegrown-wise, yeah, probably.
So
unless Ranger can give him a run.
Yeah, we'll see. I hope Cole Hamels was really good, and I hope he gets a nice, appreciative reception tomorrow night. I'm absolutely certain he will, because Philadelphia loves a winner, as the old saying goes, and he was a winner, and he helped deliver a memorable moment for all of us.
Yeah, it was pretty great. And Jim, this team is pretty great that we currently have. There's one glaring need. I think it's become crystallized over the last 2 weeks here. This outfield, I think offensively needs an upgrade. To me, it makes more sense with Brandon Marsh being more of a better left fielder than center fielder to try and address the center field position, but left field could also be on the table. As Dave Dombrowski told Matt Gelb from The Athletic the other day, it's still way, way, way too early. We're 40 days away from the trade deadline. But is it safe to assume that outfield is almost a guarantee that they're going to upgrade that position somewhere?
I think it's almost a guarantee they're going to try. Sometimes you can't get the player you want, get to the finish line. Sometimes the price is too high. I think the prices will be high. And I think the Phillies, there are certain people they need to be protective of in their minor league system. This is still a team that, is 20 plus games over 500. And we don't know if, the front office is going to take one course in terms of a big ticket or a different course in terms of a more around the edges marginal upgrade. And I think that's still to be determined by what they're going to get out of Castellanos. Is he turning the corner? I mean, I don't know. He's so inconsistent. You see 0 for 13 or 14 in Baltimore, and then he's 7 for 13 against this last series. Again, who'd they just play?
San Diego Padres.
They take 2 or 3 from the Padres, and he's 7 for 13. So hits the ball good. Drove a few, won a game. So I don't know which way they're going to go out there, but I do expect them to do something. I would guess maybe a right-handed bat in either ability to play center or left, and then he can mix and match. But a lot of it also depends on the guys they have. At some point, the guys they have need to step up and produce. Marsh needs to play better. That was a pivotal error he made yesterday, or misplay, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to deliver more. If he wants to play against left-handed pitching, he has to show something. He hasn't done that. So, but they need something out of a lot of guys out there. There's going to be a mix and match situation for a while, and try to ride some hot hands. And then if no hot hand emerges, that's where the front office is going to have to step up and fix something, because they're not going to let a flaw go unfilled on this team because of the high payroll, because of the superstar talent they have, because of what they could do in October, and they need to do something big in October. The odometer is always turning on this team. Your core is not getting any younger. You got some nice young pieces coming. You got that secondary core in Bohm and Stott that are young and pushing, but you got your older core, Harper and Turner, and Real Muto and Schwarber. They're all north of 30. So they need to do something. Need to do something big here in October, and they're all on the same page. I think they feel that way.
So real quick, Jim, you mentioned there's some guys they have to protect down there. Everybody's valuations are different on these prospects. To you, like, how many guys? Because like Justin Crawford, for example, just had a month of June that's silly. He's playing great. How many guys do you believe are truly kind of like an untouchable?
It all depends. For me, there's really, untouchable is a tough word. It depends on the opportunity. It depends on the opportunity that's presented you, the player that's presented you. I guess you'd listen on everybody, but I'd be really, center field has been an issue around here for a long time, and you might have a pretty good one coming. I'd be kind of protective of him, but again, depending on the opportunity, you never know. You never know. You get a controllable pitcher who's healthy, or if the player you're trying to protect is maybe blocked at the big league level, a la Logan O'Hoppe.
Sure.
And they really like Logan O'Hoppe, but Real Muto was going to be around for a few years, so they were more open to that move. I'd be kind of protective of Crawford, but again, depends on what's presented to me. I'd be very protective of Aiden Miller, but again, it depends on what is presented to me. And then, the prospect still has to develop. Nothing goes in a straight line. They were very protective of Griff McGarry a few years ago. He hasn't progressed. McAble, I'd still like to see him get here, and I think he certainly has a chance to do that. He's only 22 years old. He's young. Development is a fickle thing, and I know he has struggled this year, but I remember it takes pitchers time. So I remember it took Gavin Floyd. They got impatient with Gavin Floyd. They traded him. I think it was in the Freddie Garcia deal, and Gavin Floyd went on to be a 17-game winner in Chicago. Had a pretty nice career. Maybe he didn't live up to being the fourth pick in the country, but a lot of guys don't live up to being the fourth pick in the country. He was a valuable big league pitcher. So I'm not ready to throw away Nick Abel in a deal, but maybe your ears are open in the right deal. Again, I think you listen on everybody. It depends on the opportunity, because you never know where you're going to be blown away, but you're more protective of other guys. So again, like, center field has been kind of an issue for a long time around here since Victorino left, maybe, right? Have they had anybody to really depend on? I'm trying to think.
No.
So maybe be nice to have Crawford around. He's going to need some time. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight, but then you have to balance that with the here and now. And the here and now is, if you got a team you can think win the World Series, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, Luis Robert looked pretty good too, Jim.
Maybe there's a situation or a need that prompts you to go for it. That's why those guys make the big decisions. And I'm sitting here talking to you guys, and you look like you're in your bedroom.
I'm sorry, Jim. I'm sorry.
So, Jim, you brought up that second wave, like the younger group of the immediate core, and the one guy in particular, Bryson Stott. I'm, a big fan of Bryson Stott. I do believe one day he could be a guy that competes for a batting title. The approach has been a little off recently. But I think the at-bats have been better as of maybe the last handful of games. Is there anything you've noticed from him, either during the slump or kind of maybe starting to emerge that was the reason for his, first part of the season struggles.
Yeah, I think in spring training they wanted him to be a tad more aggressive, and he might have gotten caught in between a little bit because I think he is, by nature, a pretty selective hitter. I mean, he had that in his pedigree as far back as UNLV. I think that's one of the things they liked about him. It's one of the things they liked about Bowman, the draft, is they had some selectivity. I think it becomes kind of a fine line, though, when you start, maybe taking fastballs. I think they would like him to be a little more aggressive. I haven't really dug into the numbers, but it just looks like he's missed some fastballs this season, especially early, that, a good hitter is going to get to, and I think he will get to eventually because he is I agree with you. I think he's a good hitter, but he hasn't really driven the ball like maybe you'd expect coming off last year, in terms of, building on it, and hasn't, like I said, it looks like he's missed some fastballs, but it does look like he is coming around a little bit, and that's hitting. Sometimes you have a bad month, a bad half, and then it comes. But the guy's a grinder, and I do like his makeup a lot. He doesn't seem to panic, and he doesn't seem to get down when he still does something in that night's game to help you win. And I think the last few games he has swung it better. He's got some multi-hit games. He might be on the verge of connecting with something here and giving the team a lift.
Jim, one of those guys that is putting pretty good bats on balls and had 6 weeks there to fill in was Edmundo Sosa. Trey Turner is back now, obviously, which is a good thing. How realistic is Edmundo getting time in left field? What do you envision his kind of role being going forward? Is he worthy of more than 2 starts a week? Can they finagle it? What do you expect from Edmundo Sosa's kind of role here?
I kind of expect him to be the guy that they acquired, a guy who can play all over the diamond and give you a little energy and a little production and play good defense. Kind of see him getting back in that role in multiple positions. If one of those positions turns out to be left field, it wouldn't surprise me. I think he's got the aptitude to be respectable out there, to be presentable, serviceable, whatever the word you want to use. I mean, he's been working out there a little bit this week. He'll continue to do it. If they see him making enough strides, I don't think they would hesitate to put him out there because nobody's really seized that opportunity. Why not? Give it a shot. You're 20-some plus games over 500. The guy can move. He's not like sticking a immovable object out there. He's got some athleticism, pretty good footwork, moves well. He's got some hands. He's got a lot of baseball sense. I think there's a chance he could go out there and be serviceable, but he's going to show the team that in workouts. And then if he gets a shot out there and he hits, he'll get some time out there because there's an old saying, if you hit, they'll find a place for you. And it's going to come down to that.
So real quick, Jim, based on the evaluations they're making of him playing left field, how inclusive of a process is that? Is that part Rob? Is that part defensive coach? Is everybody? Yeah, everybody's on deck.
That's one of the real. It's a good question. It's because I think baseball teams will run a lot differently nowadays than they used to be. It would be, the GM and the manager would talk about it, maybe the coaching staff. But there was a day when there wasn't even an outfield coach. So now you have outfield instructors and multiples, and so they'll be all in on it. There's that collaboration buzzword that all teams use, and all organizations use in and out of baseball. And it's valuable to get multiple points of view. It's valuable to get multiple opinions. So they'll have their outfield instructors digging in on them, actually giving the instruction, giving feedback to the manager, giving feedback to the general manager. They'll put readings on them analytically. They'll use. I was just going to ask that.
In this day and age, are they like analytically tracking practices?
They can. Well, they track, like a simulated game for a pitcher. They can track that. I'm sure they can put some type of technology on his movements out there if they chose to. I don't know that they are. Yeah. But they could put him through tell him, okay, this is a game speed workout, right?
Yeah.
And sure, they could put some stuff on him. And we're gonna hit the ball in the corner. We want to see how quick you can get it to second base. We want to see how fast you can cover these 37 feet.
Sure.
Yeah, they can do all that. Now, I don't know if they're going to, but it will be a collaborative undertaking. they will have multiples instructing him, and then they will all talk about it, and they'll talk about it right up to the top, from Sam Full, Dombrowski on down, your coaching staff, your field staff, your manager, and they'll come up with a course of action. And if he plays well enough, then it kind of becomes up to Rob to put him on the lineup card. And I think if he played well, Rob would use him.
One last one for me, Jim. No, probably no longer a secret weapon, because I think he's getting valued around the league at this point just as much as he is in Philly. Matt Strahm.
Yeah.
You know, the streak ends at 20 some odd games of scoreless appearances, gets right back in it this weekend and throws another scoreless inning. For a guy that I shouldn't say only, but for a guy that doesn't have the 98, 99, 99, he's throwing 93, 94. What makes Matt Strahm, A, so deceptive, and B, so difficult to hit?
He hides the ball a little bit in that turn, so I think there's some deception there. But the thing I see with him is, you know, he's been a starter, he's been a reliever. He's kind of reached that point where I think he believes he's good, and he's loaded with confidence, and he's backing that up with execution. He's executing his four-seam fastball, putting it in good spots, which is a must when you're not 98, 99. And that slider is a good pitch for him. And he commands it so well, and he commands it to righties, he commands it to lefties. He's getting both righties and lefties out. He's just on a good roll. I think sometimes you get in a pretty good bullpen, and they all kind of lift each other because they're all pitching well. I know occasionally they have their blips, but for the most part, it's been a good bullpen. But, you know, Strahm, what I see is, you know, I think his walk rate is down. His control is excellent. His command is excellent. And his confidence in executing those two pitches that he really relies on seems to be off the charts. It seems like when he runs in the game, he can't wait to get the ball, and really valuable guy, can give you more than 3 outs. Heck of a pitcher, heck of a signing by that front office. Yeah. But I think he belongs in the All-Star game. I've always thought relievers get short shrift. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. Because we look a lot toward starting pitching, we look a lot toward, you know, big offense, but there's that guy that has to come in, you know, a one-run game in the sixth, and keep it a one-run game, so your offense can get a few more at-bats and take the lead, and your closer can get there and lock it down, or come in the eighth and get a huge out, or get 3 huge outs. And he's been that guy. But I see confidence, I see command, I see a willingness to throw that slider and getting some chase with it. You know, hitters are really chasing it, starting in the zone and leaving the zone, and he'll get a swing on it. So he's been really good. He deserves to be at the All-Star game.
Sure does. And the Phillies are going to have a bunch of All-Stars this year, Jim. As always, we appreciate the time. There's a great piece up on allphly.com about Cole Hamels and the construction of the 2008 team. I would recommend everybody read that on the heels of Cole Hamels' retirement night tomorrow at Citizens Bank Park. Jim, keep up the great work. How's the golf game this summer? Are you getting out enough?
Not getting out much, but you know, it's kind of hit or miss. Right. It's a major frustration. I don't know why people play. It's misery.
It is. But occasionally you get that one shot, Jim, and it's a high you chase for the rest of the summer.
You always get that one shot on 18, and it keeps you coming back.
Yep, exactly.
But on the plus side, my tomatoes are looking good,
even in this heat.
Oh yeah, I know how to take care of them. But my garden,
my stuff's getting fried in the backyard.
My garden is really starting to explode. I'm going to have a good year on the garden side.
What's the best thing from Salisbury Farms?
Always tomatoes are always the number one starter.
Okay.
But, you know, I can come at you I can go 9 deep. So I got a lot of squash, a lot of beans, a lot of basil,
nice,
a lot of sunflowers. You know, I got some beets, got some cilantro, cucumbers, all kinds of squash. So we're looking at this heat. I would like it to not be so intense, but I'm encouraged. I'm more encouraged about the garden than I am the golf.
Well, good stuff. Make sure you're reading Jim, following him on Twitter. We appreciate the time as always, buddy.
Later.
Talk to you next week. There he is, Jim Salisbury. Interesting stuff there in terms of the trade deadline. I really enjoyed the Sosa conversation, Tyler, about how hands-on a thing that is now, because I was wondering, soccer players, they wear that chest piece and like the sports bra thing, and they track, how far they run, top speed, low speed, heart rate, all that stuff. So I wonder like how much the R&D department gets involved with watching Edmundo Sosa, and are they tracking that analytically? And then is it Rob Thompson's baseball gut versus the R&D department opinion, and then Dombrowski and Fold get in the mix? I'd love to be a fly on the wall in one of those conversations.
So to everything you just said, it's a big oversweeping yes to everything, right? It's a little bit of all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. All right, before we get to the Ranger Suarez stuff, which we'll close the show out with, or possibly just save for tomorrow because we don't have a game tonight, we do have to go down on the farm, Tyler. And the future is bright for the Phillies organization. Brought to you by Shady Rays. Let's put on our beautiful rose-colored Shady Rays glasses and explain why the future is bright. Brought to you by Shady Rays. Head to shadyrays.com. Use code PHLY at checkout, and you can get 35% off polarized sunglasses. And if you're unfamiliar with Shady Rays, they have lost or stolen or broken glass protection. So if you do what I do and lose or break sunglasses on the regular, just buy yourself a pair of Shady Rays and they got your back. All right, Tyler, let's go down on the farm here. A couple guys to get to today. We're going to talk about Sam Aldeguerri, Gene Cabrera, Devin Saltaban, and Justin Crawford. But why don't you take it with Sam Aldeguerri, as you did the research on his recent performances and how much he's been surging for Jersey Shore.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about him at the beginning of the year, and the progression of Sam Aldeguerri is pretty simple. It's throw strikes, it's miss bats. Obviously that's very super simplistic, but he is a left-handed. He's throwing 92, 93. We talked about Matt Strahm kind of not having the power fastball. You got to rely on your other pitches. You got to rely on command, and you got to rely on gut, right? You've got to trust yourself. Different situation for a young starter, but I think it can be applicable to say that this guy has done a really nice job of commanding the strike zone, of throwing his secondary pitches. And the one thing for me, outside of the 2.8 ERA, I think he's had over the course, 2.67 over the course of his 10 starts this year.
54 innings. Yep.
Yeah. So 54 innings over 10 starts, which basically pretty much maps out for a young pitcher. They don't let these guys go more than 5 or 6 most of the time. He's been really, really good against left-handed hitters, that same side action. 127 batting average, 25 strikeouts over 19 accumulated outs, or 19 accumulated innings worth of outs. So that's 57 outs. And he struck out 25 of those hitters. He's given up 0 home runs. He's walked just 6 left-handed hitters. And he's been really, really good against lefties. And more in particular, he's been really good against lefties with runners in scoring position, where he's given up just 1 earned run against those lefties with runners in scoring position, and he struck out 15 over the course of 9 accumulated innings pitched. He's done a really, really nice job of keeping runners off the base paths, and when they do get on the base paths, he's done a good job of limiting damage past that 1 earned run.
Yeah, Sam Aldeguerri from Verona, Italy, hopefully to South Philadelphia one day. He's had a phenomenal first half of the season, so hopefully he can keep it going.
And think about it too, Jamie. He's got a 2.67 ERA, and 2 of his last outing was quite good. But 2 of his starts before that, he gave up 10 earned runs over the course of 8 earned runs over the course of 10 innings pitched.
Yeah.
So you figure you take those out, he's probably closing in on a sub-2 ERA for the course of the season. He's been really strong this year.
Yeah, really, really strong. And one of his teammates, the Jersey Shore Blue Claws, are loaded. Once they got Clausen and Aiden Miller, this roster has a lot of talent on it. And one of those guys, Gene Cabrera, last night, Tyler, he generated the most swings and misses in high A this year with 22 swings and misses, which is just nasty work. He struck out 8 over 6 scoreless, and in his last 12 1/3 innings pitched, has accumulated 22 strikeouts. Now, I'm not watching these games as much as I'd like to be, only seeing the highlights after the fact. That's some nasty stuff. 22 swings and misses in a game is dirty work.
So think about it. In his start on June 12th against Wilmington, you said 22 strikeouts. He had 14 in 6 1/3. 6 1/3 innings pitched is 19 outs. That's little league stuff. He got 14 Ks of the 19 outs he surrendered. Now, he did give up a couple of runs, 4 runs, 3 earned. But the stuff is super encouraging. The swing and miss stuff is super encouraging.
22 is filthy.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That is nasty stuff. So Gene Cabrera, another guy to keep an eye on there. Now, last night, the Phillies' number 6 prospect overall, Devin Saltaban, he went 4 for 5 with a home run and 2 RBIs. He's another guy having a pretty nice year. I feel like this is getting repetitive as if you're not talking Griff McGarry and Mick Abel, pretty much all the prospects are having really good starts to the year, which I don't think is fool's gold, but Devin Saltaban, again, showing a little bit of power last night. Nice 4 for 5 evening. Another nice start to the year.
Yeah, I mean, the average is a little bit low for him this year. He's hitting just 217. The OBP is at 311, but a particularly strong outing for him. Like you said, what did he end up with? 4 hits and 5 at-bats. I think he drove in two
RBIs.
Two. Yeah, I think he drove in 2. A particularly strong evening for him. And a guy who I think that they tend to really like. We talked about him, in our offseason preparation. Is he going to be a legitimate shortstop? Is he going to be a legitimate, what kind of infielder is he? Could he become a corner outfielder? Because they're so deep at the middle infield positions. I see a way in which this guy maybe ends up being a corner outfielder. But it's a good problem to have. I mean, like we said, the average is a little bit low, but he's stolen 10 bags. He's driven in 31, 7 home runs on the season. At least an encouraging evening for Devin Saltaban.
Yeah, and then the last guy we'll touch on briefly here as we call it a day, Justin Crawford, guy we sat down with in Clearwater this year, the team's number 4 prospect. He's 62nd in the MLB pipeline rankings and all of baseball. He continues having a great year. The month of June, he's been on a tear. His slash line in the month of June, 373, 407, 510. Now, he is now top 10 in the South Atlantic League. Now, he started the year in Jersey Shore. He's not like an Aiden Miller that was a call-up. He is now top 10 in the league in hits, batting average, stolen bases, and runs. Tyler, last I looked, those 4 categories are all extreme positives for a baseball club.
Yeah, pretty important. By the way, I just want to make a clerical note. Devin Saltaban's been playing mostly second this year.
Okay.
Not short. My apologies. Played about 47
right.
games.
Well, it makes sense with, Aiden Miller and Begoya and they do have there's a logjam at shortstop.
So. I think the question can still remain, is he maybe a corner outfielder as he kind of rises through?
I think so.
But Justin Crawford, we talked about his launch angle was one of the big things, was maybe a little bit concerning, was the negative launch angle. Well, if you're going to, basically hit him where they ain't and you're going to drive the ball, and you've got the speed that Justin Crawford does, the launch angle can become a little bit secondary. It doesn't need to become overinflated. We talked about it being negative. If it gets to
even
just north of 0, I think you give yourself a pretty good position.
Well, his answer on that to us was very interesting because we did ask him about it, and he said, "Yeah, we don't want to change it that much." And his point was they want him to put the ball in play and take advantage of his speed. And you're seeing there with runs scored and stolen bases, top 10 in the league, he has elite plus speed. So Justin Crawford is a guy that isn't going to be launching the ball at 23-degree launch angles and trying to hit bombs. He's a guy they want to keep, in his element, in his routine, just swinging through the plane of the strike zone and putting the ball into play and try to take advantage of some of that speed.
Yeah, base hits are base hits, right?
Yeah.
RBIs are RBI. Now, there's of course you want some pop in all your hitters, and pop doesn't necessarily have to mean home runs. Pop just means drive. Pop just means high exit velo. Pop means barrel rates. It means hard hit percentages.
A double for him could be a triple.
Those type of things are important. A single could be a double could be a triple, right? So to me, good quality swings are so superior to launch angle when you've got a guy, especially I think in general, to me, I think that a good quality swing means more than anything. But when you've got a guy like Justin Crawford, who's got the tools to be a threat on the bases, who's got the tools to drive the ball, even if it is, line drive and below, launch angle means less to me than it would for a Kyle Schwarber-esque player.
Yeah, I don't care about launch angle really at all when there's results to disprove it. You know what I mean? Like, of course, you want launch angle from your big bopper so they can put the ball out of the park. But a guy like Justin Crawford is never going to be a bopper. He's a guy you want on the base pass in any way he can get there. So if the baseball brilliant people above him say, hey, we don't want to cut that down too much, then, I'm going to go ahead and trust them. So Justin Crawford is having a tremendous month of June, a tremendous start to the year, one of many Phillies prospects that are thriving this year. So that is today's Down on the Farm segment. Congrats to those kids for a good start to the year and kind of getting us excited about this minor league system overall. Hopefully it bears some serious fruit in the next couple years, as it was a dark decade from 2012 to 2022 until Bowman Stott, basically came up and Ranger developed, and now Sanchez. There were some dark days in the middle.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. I mean, we talked about it. How many of those prospects that, and even when they were the number one prospect, they were like the 29th ranked farm system.
Oh, yeah.
How much did it actually matter? So I don't know what the ranking is this year, but if they can crawl within the top, 15, 15 to 18, I would be thrilled. I think they might be a little bit higher than.
I think they're 21st based on the consensus of the 6 major publications that rank these.
So if you can crawl into like a 15 to 18 range, I think that you're clearly moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. If they can get up around 15, that would be great. Now, Phillies Tailgate, our friend on Twitter the other day, had out the 2020 top players in the system in the minor leagues. And I think Bryson Stott was 3rd at the time. But what was funny to me, well, not funny because Casey Martin's a person. Remember Casey Martin from Arkansas? He was a first-round pick. They kind of had high hopes for him. I think he was 4th.
He was somebody I was big time wrong on. I thought he was going to be a major league player. I really did. I liked him coming out of college. Could play multiple positions, just really never put it together.
Yeah. And number 1 on that list at the time was Spencer Howard.
Of course he was.
So, it's just a reminder. You can't get because we're going to be talking about outfielders a lot the next 40 days because I'm not going to shut up about Luis Robert. But it's also a reminder that, just because a guy's number 1 in your system doesn't mean he's a lock to be a major league player. So, there is a thing in Philadelphia where we get a little too attached to our prospects at times. So, here it is. Actually, top 10 prospects in 2021, according to MLB Pipeline. Thanks to Phillies Tailgate putting this out. Number 1, Spencer Howard. Number 2, Mick Abel. Number 3, Bryson Stott. I would say Bryson Stott worked out pretty well.
Yeah, he's a major league player.
Yeah. Number 4, Francisco Morales. Number 5, Rafael Marchand, who looks like a capable player if he can stay healthy. Number 6, Luis Garcia. Number 7, Casey Martin. Number 8, Johan Rojas. Number 9, Eric Miller. Number 10, Simon Muzziotti. So, I mean, just look how much that has changed in 3 short years already.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of guys. Obviously, Eric Miller's made a major league career for himself. Simon Muzziotti, I don't think is ever going to be a major league player. No. I'm trying to remember who the Phillies moved Francisco Morales for, because I think he was part of a trade.
That's some real sicko stuff. We need our friend Pat Egan for that.
That's some Pat Egan stuff right there. But the list is poor, right? There's a couple of and listen, here's my thing. Jim was talking about, does a player ever become the 4th overall pick?
Oh, no. Francisco Morales was outright optioned by the Phillies in 2023.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So even worse. Jim was talking about
when they signed Craig Kimbrell, they designated him for assignment.
There you go. My thing with a first-round pick, if a first-round pick or any draft pick becomes a major league player, that's a win. Because it's such an inexact science. You've got guys hitting with metal bats. You've got kids coming out of high school where the pitcher is a 0.2 ERA and 100 strikeouts in 40 innings. Like, it's such an inexact science. If you get a major league player out of your first round pick, that's a win for me. Like, Alec Bohm being a major league player was good enough for me. He's ascended well past that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the future is bright. Thanks to Shady Rays for bringing us today's Down on the Farm segment. And the future is bright with Shady Rays. A lot of fun catching up with Jim Salisbury today. 40 days until the MLB trade deadline. And Luis Robert, you will be ours. Oh, yes, you will be ours. We will be back tomorrow on a post-game show. I do want to get into that Ranger Suarez stuff tomorrow because you did some deep dive on what's making his year special that we can just save for tomorrow night. Sure. But yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow. John Foley will be joining us from Citizens Bank Park on Cole Hamels retirement night. Should be a fun night down at the ballpark for everyone. I always love when the 2008 guys get together.
Of course.
So I would imagine a lot of his teammates will be there to support him. So it should be a fun night down at the ballpark.
Yeah, I think that you've got to, anytime you get a retirement ceremony like this, like they're getting into a time now where it's like all of these guys or a bulk of these guys are going to get put on the, out in Ashburn Alley. Some of them are going to maybe get maybe you get one number retirement. I don't know if anybody does get their number retired, but maybe you do. But like your Wall of Fame nights, like consecutively, is just going to be Hamels, Rollins, Utley, Howard, Chooch,
awesome.
Burrell. I think maybe Burrell might already be on. I don't remember, but that's the point. The point is like they're just going to run through this group soon, and it's just going to be great player after great player after great player.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for us today. Make sure you're checking out the rest of the shows here on PHLY. The Eagles show has started up. The Sixers coming up this afternoon around 2:30, I believe, and the Flyers at 1. And then, of course, Charlie Manuel was in studio today with Anthony Gargano for the full 2 hours, I believe. So make sure you check that out on YouTube. I'm sure it was good stuff. I was only able to hop in for a couple minutes because my kids were home and causing havoc in the house. But yes, make sure you're checking out everything going on here at PHLY. And of course, consider becoming a diehard, getting some free merch, and getting some of the best writers in the city at your disposal. We will be back tomorrow for postgame as hopefully we kick the Diamondbacks' ass and forget all about the NLCS last year and that fake series that never happened. We don't.
We all silly like the mayor.